So Fantasy Flight Games just announced a 15% across the board price hike on all games, products, cards, everything, effective July 15th. So about a month from now. Now, how does that reflect in the community? What do you think about that? And politics aside, this back and forth with tariffs, we're seeing the increase of everything. But in terms of board games, I have to wonder how much of it is because you're very, very vulnerable. And we saw this with COVID. Naturally, to sidebar for a moment, I love board games. I love being part of the board gaming community, but a business is there to make money and to extract money from consumers. Hopefully, they're delivering a good enough product or one that you get a lot of enjoyment out of. So I'm all for maximizing profits. I understand how that operates. And in terms of a company that you may like, Fantasy Flight, I have a lot of their titles. I love them. Naturally, I want them to make a lot of money, pay their employees and their creators a ton of money so they can continue creating amazing games. But this idea that you leave yourself vulnerable by producing everything outside of the United States or producing everything in one area, relying on long shipping chains. We saw this with the disruption of COVID a number of years ago. We saw how things were happening at that moment and Kickstarters were unable to be delivered. Likewise, this idea of production just in time, production of shipping it off to Kickstarter, finding different ways to pass that cost to the consumer. I get all that. And naturally, a price hike is a price hike. But the skeptic in me kind of wonders, as profit margins shrink due to physical costs, the cost of employees, rather than having actual employees just outsource everything, contract everything, trying to keep that momentum building, that momentum going. Well, how much of this is tariffs or not tariffs? I have to wonder. And I also have to wonder, the natural question is, okay, things are in flux right now. There's a lot going on. You're going to implement a 15% price hike on everything to remain competitive. If, and I don't know, but if things settle, if things calm down, are you going to roll back that 15%? Are you going to bring those prices down? It just, maybe it's the skeptic in me, but it just seems like in every industry, there's just waiting for an excuse to raise prices and deliver less content, deliver less, raise prices, and it's just waiting. It's like, what can we pin this on to raise prices so that we can deflect and say, well, we don't want to do this. We don't want to raise 15, 20%, but look, we have to because of this. It seems like a long time as the board gaming industry becomes more mainstream and gets taken over by corporate entities with that type of alignment, they're just waiting. They're just wondering. Now, is that like conspiracy? Is that being really, really skeptical? I don't know. I do have to say, I'm a little bit surprised at Fantasy Flight, giving the monolith that it is. And I love supporting smaller, independent content creators, gaming companies, and I can't even begin to imagine the challenges of taking a product that you love, a game, your vision, your voice that you've created. It's one thing just to even create that, but then push that out and deal with market forces and production and shipping and logistics and interfacing with customers. I can't even begin to imagine that. But if I take a couple of steps out and you've got a big company, Fantasy Flight is big. How do you not manage that? How do you not manage that? And again, I'm not saying necessarily eat the costs because you got to make money. I want them to make a lot of money. It just feels like an unwinnable situation. An unwinnable situation. And I have to kind of wonder, it goes back years ago where, do you guys remember back in the day, like you had to pay for data? You had to pay for a data plan and it was like, you get 250 megabytes a month. And if you go over that, like you have to start paying. Everyone did that. And you could, of course, upgrade your data plan for a lot of money. And then, I don't know if it was T-Mobile, I don't know what. Somebody was like, you know what, we're going free data. Because look, everyone can see it's a scam. It costs virtually nothing over the network. It's like back in the day, even before that, charging you for texts, 100 free texts, and then a penny each text. Come on. But once that barrier was broken, where it's like, look, free data, all the other companies, AT&T, Sprint, Verizon, they're all like, hey, we're giving you free data. Guess what? Free data, unlimited data. It's like, no, you had to do that. The market forces forced you, the consumers forced you to do that. So we're like in the antithesis of this, where everybody's raising prices on tariffs, on inflation, on trade. Now the board gaming industry is doing it. And a lot of other groups online and Facebook groups and things like that have been talking about this. I'm just surprised. Fantasy Flight. Somewhere, and this announcement just went out, somewhere in some office on the other side of the world, that company, GW, they're like, how can we do this? Wait a second. How can we do this? How can we just across the board, and because we're Games Workshop, bigger is better, we're going to raise it to 30%, 35% across the board. $250 Land Raider, and you need 3 of them. Like, it's just, is that what's coming? So naturally, it's just the effect, because I know being a board game enthusiast, we're all in different positions and places and priorities in our life, responsibilities, but we love this board gaming thing. Either way, whatever the reason is, whether it's legitimate or not, there's going to be less board games to go around, less purchases, less that title. Come on, let's be honest. You've been there where you're like, look, I got my board game shelf set up. It's perfect. It's good. I love it. I've got all my titles. Then you see some other title and you're like, I don't know. It looks kind of cool. Kind of interested. You watch some reviews. You're like, yeah, maybe I'll pick this up, right? It's not like a definite. It's not a definite yes. It's not a definite no. But I'm sure there were times where titles you were like, I'll try this out. It looks good. Get a couple of plays, maybe trade it, sell it. Well, now it's going to be like, look, unless I'm sold 100%, like before I buy it, I know I'm convinced I'm going to love it. You're not going to pick it up. That's where the hurt is going to be. I think those of us in the board gaming community, as a passion, as an enthusiasm to it, we're still going to purchase titles. Those titles you're in love with, or look, I've been waiting for this reprint, or I've been waiting for this reimaging or this sequel. Yes, absolutely. But those of us with those titles that are on the fence, I'm not really sure. I think we're going to pass. And I don't think there's going to necessarily be shrug your shoulders and it's just like, well, that's where we are. Because board games are a complete luxury item. And I can't see how you get away with it on the opposite end. And this will kind of framework it out, and then I'll turn it over to my fellow board gaming enthusiasts in the comments. I can raise the prices on a physical product and deliver less. I mean, we see this in tons of industries. And if I can't necessarily deliver less on the front side, then I'll just gut customer support and I'll just gut any type of support for the product. Well, board games, I can't see that. What are you going to cut? Like, I already assume, and I don't know the exact specifics, but I assume look, we've got 3 card weights that we can print on. We've got the standard for the industry. We've got the deluxe. Well, we're not doing that. And then we've got just slightly above paper. If it gets even damp, it'll disintegrate. I assume, yes, you could roll back production and use lesser qualities and lesser molds and things like that. But eventually you're going to hit a baseline really, really fast. Really fast. You can't dial that back. What are you going to dial back? Customer support? I mean, there really isn't much customer support. You're going to dial back what? The game itself, make games with less components, do less, can only do so much. So I don't see, in terms of raising the prices of units, and if people pull back, well, then you make that up in other ways. I give you the same bag of chips, but it's half filled. Or I change the container for more, make it look bigger, but it's some mathematical formula I don't understand, where I'm looking at 2 containers and I'm like, wait, you're telling me this one is 50% smaller, but it's the same size, but somehow through geometry and stuff like that, I can't see it, but I believe you. Can't necessarily do that with board games. But wow, 15%. They didn't even do the 9.99% thing, which all of us still somehow overlook, where it's keep it single digit to do double digit. And then if you were in that boardroom and you're like, look, 15%, look, just do 20. just do 20, right? Because people are going to be pissed either way. So 15, 18, 20, just do 20. Or how about pull something like that other company did? 25%. And then tomorrow be like, we heard you. We support you. We love you. It's not 25%, 20%. And you feel like you won, like you got something on there. But very, very interesting. And it is going to definitely have an impact in the board gaming community. I don't think this one is going to necessarily blow over. I think, and not in terms of Fantasy Flight, but over across the board, raising with inflation and tariffs and trade and all that stuff. I think this is going to impact the board gaming community and industry tremendously.